Good afternoon, Neil here with the Off the Net Radio Show and my series Who's Who in Santa Cruz with my good dear friend, Mr. John Sisk, with so-and-so something, we don't know what the hell it's called, bank.
Oh my God.
What is it? What
is
the
this
heck?
how we're going to start this thing
Yeah,
out?
what the heck? I saw this bank's being called more names.
We're growing, man. It's
Growing.
a good thing.
What are you
It's
now?
a good thing.
Who
We're
are you?
West Coast Community Bank. You want the history on that?
Yeah.
I'll give you the history.
Give the history.
This is going
West
back.
Coast. This is the West Coast community history, everybody. So listen in.
So we're going back like 25 years or so. There was one community bank in town, Coast Commercial
I remember
Bank.
that. Harvey Nicholson.
Harvey Nicholson,
Right.
man. It was a great little bank.
Yeah.
Did great things for the community. Actually, after the earthquake, Coast Commercial is kind of responsible for helping rebuild downtown. That's what really put Coast Commercial Bank on the map.
Right.
I was a young kid working at Coast Commercial
Oh, you
Bank.
work for Harvey?
Huh? I worked for Harvey, man. I was in my 20s. My buddy Fred Kyoka worked there. We had a great little thing going, nice little community bank. And then a bigger bank came in from Palo Alto and Greater Bay Bancorp and bought Coast Commercial Bank. And when Coast Commercial Bank got bought,
Yeah.
Santa Cruz County Bank, David Hield, Fred Kyoka, those guys broke off and opened up Santa Cruz County Bank. A couple of years later, myself and Rick Hofstetter broke off and started Lighthouse Bank. So there were two community banks in town, right? There was Santa Cruz County Bank.
Were they competitors or were you?
We were friendly competitors.
Just
since
was
we
it
were
edgy?
separate
If you saw
companies.
somebody in the room, was it edgy?
At times, but most of the time it was friendly, and especially amongst the employees, very friendly. At the top, maybe got a little dicey, but two community banks in town.
We're going to come back to dicey in a minute.
All right, two community banks in town, both of them extremely high-performing banks in the banking industry. Like both of them rated in the top 10 banks in the United States for safety, soundness, profitability, and all that.
Why is that, do you think?
It has to do with the Santa Cruz community.
Yeah.
I mean, after
the people.
banking here for 35 years or so, you think about downturns, recessions, things never really get too terrible in Santa Cruz. People always want to live here. There's always a pretty good market for the housing here. It's just a highly desirable place.
Right.
Tourists love to come here during the summer. So the economics are always pretty good here, and it's reflected in, even currently today in our bank's earnings. But just to go back to the story, two community banks, Santa Cruz County Bank, Lighthouse Bank, they both are doing very well in nationally. And then in 2019, Lighthouse and Santa Cruz County Bank combined. I call it a merger of equals. I was the president of Lighthouse Bank. That name did not survive, and we became part of Santa Cruz County Bank.
That wasn't the direction that you wanted to go in.
No, it was. It was.
Okay.
I really thought that that one really, really strong community bank would be a very good thing. So I was in favor of it.
But was it a good thing for the community?
It was a very good thing for the community. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because when Santa Cruz County Bank, the size that Santa Cruz County Bank was, and the size that Lighthouse were apart from each other, you couldn't do very big deals. Our legal lending limit, it's all based on your amount of capital you have, didn't allow us to do really big deals.
Right.
And there were a lot of projects happening in town. You can kind of look at the projects now. They're getting really big.
When you drive downtown, it looks like Manhattan down here.
Yeah, and we're still not financing those. They're still too big for us.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of deals in town and a lot of businesses in town that wanted to bank with either Lighthouse Bank or Santa Cruz County Bank, but they were too big for us. They were just too big. We couldn't handle them. But when we combined the two banks in 2019, we could handle these larger companies that have been in Santa Cruz for years that needed more resources. So it was a very good thing for the community. It allowed us to kind of be more inclusive and bank just about everybody in the community.
For more of the top end of the population, or more
everybody
across the board.
Across the board.
Okay.
I mean, across the board. That's always been our philosophy.
Yeah.
We're a community bank, and we've got products for entry level all the way to now, some of the bigger corporations.
What do you personally think about all these large buildings, all the building going on downtown here?
I'm actually, in the long run, I'm in favor of it, and I'll tell you why. I live on the west side.
Yeah.
I live a quarter mile from downtown Santa Cruz.
Yep.
My wife and I, almost every night, we walk to downtown Santa Cruz,
Yeah.
and the downtown's been hurting.
Yeah.
And you look at the restaurants, the retail businesses, and it's just been going by the wayside. And there's a lot of reasons why the community doesn't support the downtown. But having these larger projects come in areas that were kind of, I don't want to say blighted, but a little bit blighted.
Yeah, they were in England they call it dodgy.
Yeah, a little bit dodgy
they
on
were
that
a bit
end,
dodgy.
on the lower end of Pacific.
Yeah.
To go in and build those units, it hasn't happened yet. But I'm of the opinion that once those buildings get built and get occupied, that it's going to bring new life into downtown to support the restaurants and support the businesses down there and get the downtown back to what it used to be.
Do you think that it'll come to a point where they are all occupied? Or is that going to be a problem?
I mean, it's got me a little nervous. I mean, just not because of the local economy, but just the economy in general. There's this sense that things are a little uncertain right now.
Right.
The markets don't like uncertainty. There's a chance that we might be heading into a recession. Recession's never good. Like I said before, I don't think Santa Cruz will get hit really hard, but the slower those buildings are to absorb and get occupied, the slower the rebuild of downtown's going to.
As you said earlier, that Santa Cruz doesn't really have it doesn't really have a recession.
Yeah.
Are those big buildings going to be bringing a recession to Santa Cruz?
I think, if you look at the economics of those buildings, they were built, and anybody that's done any construction work in the last few years know that building costs are extremely high. Land costs in Santa Cruz are extremely high. Entitlement costs are extremely high. And interest rates, the rates on the loans that we charge to build those type of buildings are up. So those buildings were built in a very expensive environment. So they've got to get very high rents to make the loan payments on that. That's the real unknown right now, right? So if you look at a building downtown that's a market rate unit that's a 3-bedroom building, it might be close to $7,000 a month for that 3-bedroom. It's extremely expensive, and I don't know a lot of people that work in Santa Cruz that can afford it. I think they might be betting on that the Apple buses and the Google buses are bringing people in. But, there is a consensus that people are starting to go back to work more.
Yeah.
And so that those buses being full of people coming over, they're going to pay $7,000 a month in rent. It might be a little dicey. So there might be a little bit of a reset on those rents, and maybe that could be good for the community too.
What those builders, the people who built those or financed those, but what do they see? What were they looking at in their crystal ball that we can get someone to pay $7,000?
Yeah, I think what they were looking at the time was that there was a major lack of housing in Santa Cruz, and there still is a major lack of housing. I just think they overshot what the community could afford. Right, that $7,000 a month is a heavy nut.
But they're talking about how low-income housing has been discussion.
And the low-income,
right?
There is a percentage of those that they either paid low-income fees or they built low-income units.
Right.
Those are leasing up right away.
Right.
It's the market rate that's, I think, a little slower to lease up. It's got me as a banker a little nervous right now.
Let's talk about West Coast Community Bank.
West Coast Community Bank. So I'll finish the story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me finish the story.
Yep.
So the two banks, Lighthouse and Santa Cruz County Bank, combined in 2019. Santa Cruz County Bank was a larger bank and banked the larger customers in town. And then just recently, we started to look down towards Monterey, Salinas, and even King City, all the way to San Luis Obispo. And there was a bank that there was an opportunity for us to merge with. It was First Capital Bank. So we merged with First Capital Bank.
Were they in the South Valley?
Yeah, basically what I said before, Monterey, Salinas, King City, and San Luis Obispo. So there was an opportunity for us to combine those banks. We did that at the end of 2024. And then once we got those banks combined and we got the employees acclimated to our culture, we decided that the name Santa Cruz County Bank, as much as we love it all here in Santa Cruz,
it's not.
for our locations down in Monterey, Salinas, King City, and we even have a location over in Cupertino in Silicon Valley, that name just didn't play out that much. So we thought we would do something that is more, I don't want to say regional, but more West Coast.
Yeah.
Therefore, West Coast Community Bank.
So you kept all your employees; they all stayed.
Yeah, it's all the same. It was just a name change. I mean, it was probably not the best timing. We announced. I'm laughing because we announced the name change to West Coast Community Bank
Yeah.
on April Fool's Day.
Oh, yeah.
April 1st. So
Yeah.
people think, this is a joke,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it was a very expensive joke because we changed all the signs throughout all of our 10 locations.
Yeah.
Put all new signs up, everything, all our stationery, everything. We've been working on it for months. We let our clients know, but it still was a little bit of a shock.
So who are you focusing on as far as your clients? Who are they?
It's basically everybody that is in our primary service area. And our primary service area is Santa Cruz, Monterey County, San Benito County, all the way down to San Luis Obispo, and then over the hill and really in the South Bay.
Yeah.
The right client for us is a guy that brings his personal accounts over to the bank, but also may own a business in town, bring his business accounts over to the bank.
Okay.
I tell people this all the time. They say, hey, why would I want to bank with West Coast Community Bank? What's the difference between banking with West Coast Community Bank or banking with Chase?
Yeah.
And I'm like, when's the last time you were sitting in Jamie Dimon's office, right, and talking to Jamie Dimon?
Right.
Well, you're sitting here talking to me.
Yeah.
So it's
No, you've always let me in the door.
Yeah. No, you got access to all the decision makers. Every one of our clients has access to decision makers.
Okay.
And that's what really sets us apart, I think, from all the larger guys.
For people to look to research, do a little research. The website's what? What's the website? Do you know what the website is? You better look it up.
I stumbled because
I know you
what? I stumbled because even now, because we just recently changed the name. Every once in a while, I'll pick up the phone and say Santa Cruz. It's not Santa Cruz County Bank. It's West Coast Community Bank, so it's WCCB.com.
Okay, WCCB.com.
Yeah, WCCB. It's actually, my old email was jsisk at sccountybank.com. Now it's jsisk at wccb.com. A lot easier for all of us.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
You explained it very well.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Did a good job. Anything else you want to say?
No, man. I just always appreciate watching your show. It's always funny.
Always
Yeah,
there's
always something.
over 1,000 shows. 12 years, over 1,000 shows. It's
Yeah,
pretty
that's
great.
incredible.
Thanks,
you
buddy.
got to keep it going.
Will do.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you.